All right, and this is the Pastor with No Answers. And excited because we have a guest on today that I can literally say has been like a hero of mine since, now I feel bad because I'm going to say since 1991, and then Allan's going to feel a little old, but you shouldn't, man. You shouldn't. So this is what's so crazy is how music is, man. You take like an album and then you zero in on that album, and that album means something to one person that doesn't mean the same thing to one other person in the universe. I think that's why music is so special. And so my brother and I, two Charleston, South Carolina boys, grew up in the church scene where mom and dad doesn't let you listen to secular music, so Stryper saved our lives, and we're huge Stryper fans. And then right when my brother stumbled upon the bands like Vengeance Rising and all the metalcore, and next thing you know, we're stumbling into the Crucified. Everything else is, down the drain for my brother. He's always listening to heavy stuff, and we had not heard of Scaterd Few yet. So it's the very first night of Cornerstone 91, and we had not seen any shows that were noteworthy. I think maybe it had, was like new band stage or something like that. And so next thing you know, you guys come out and just start playing probably Kill the Sarks.
Flesh for ears and flesh for eyes, deteriorize the God in disguise, like we didn't get it, wasting away in the traps of the chameleons with cycle games. Spirits is willing and the flesh is still.
I think y'all played the album through the whole way, and it was your stage presence, the stage presence of the whole band, but then just the people, the stage diving, the moshing, just all that stuff was such a culture shock. And I remember thinking to myself, this is like, there's no way this can be okay. It just seems so like dark and goth, and the lead singer, he's just carrying himself so weird. But I was like, it's gotta be good. It's just so good. So I'm curious. I just kind of gave you my little kid's perspective. So you go back to 91. About how old are you? And was this a big night for you? Because I know you remember, because of prior conversations, you remember Cornerstone 91, and you asked me a couple of questions about it. But how vivid is that night in your mind, given the fact that you've played thousands of shows?
There was I remember that Cornerstone was the first time in Bushnell.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, and so we ended up showing up early, like almost a week early, and getting like this prime campground area that was raised and looking down over the lake towards to the left of us would be the main stage.
Yeah.
And this section became staff camping only as the years went by. But that first year we had this whole section with like 3 or 4 tents, and because we were that year we traveled, we probably had about 10 people with us, friends and family and stuff. And we just got to hang out. We just got to hang out with the Chapusas on site for 4 or 5 days before the fest opened up. We had been friends with Glenn, and I had been friends with Glenn and Wendy since like '83, our original days. So that was really cool, and then we were able to spend almost a week at Chapusa after the festival, which was really cool. But I remember, because Adam again was playing next door, and I remember finding out after the fact, because we would have been going on at the same time. But I remember after the fact, Gene and Ricky, Michelle, they delayed their set time and told everybody, we're going to come back in about 20 or 30 minutes. We're going to go next door.
Yeah.
So they came over and watched us for about 15, 20 minutes or so, and then went back to their stage to start their show. And so when we finished our set, We went over next door, jumped on stage with them, and hung out and did some a song or two with them because they had started later. Because it really was that type. Because I know you want to talk about the atmosphere back then. It really was like that. Because I had been running around with Terry Taylor and Gene Eugene and all those guys since I was 19. So I already knew them for about 8 years at this point. And we were running around in Southern Cal. And so when you're hanging out and running around with all these type of bands at home, and then now you find yourself in the middle of nowhere for a week, it was, I don't know, maybe it had maybe a bit of a sorority feel to it,
Yeah, I can see that.
It was definitely. I mean, and these were personal friends. We've been to each other's homes in real life, our personal lives. So hanging out with whether it was Javelina or any of those bands that we ran with, the Crucified. We had the Mortal guys. We had these relationships with them outside of the festival. So when we would see each other at the festival, it was old friends hanging out. And to an extent, that, I mean, you're there because you're the talent and you're being paid to be the talent. So there's kind of like a little bit of that. I don't know. It's a specialness to it.
Oh yeah. You're kind of why everybody's there. It's kind of, you're on top of the world, it seems like. Now, from my perspective too, you guys are.
Hey, Joey.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just want to introduce myself real quick. Hi, Allan. This is Jared. I'm Joey's brother.
How's it going?
my technology just started working, so I switched to a different computer. So I'm here now. So go ahead, Joey.
No. Yeah, I gave him our major culture shock, the life-changing moment of Scaterd Few taking stage at Cornerstone 91. So
did you tell him? Yeah, actually, I recently saw it on YouTube.
Yep, we found it on YouTube. God bless YouTube. Holy cow. Who would have ever thought that you could tune back into that show? Holy cow. And you'd get a kick out of this, Allan. My dad, so obviously just super impressive Dad of the Year award goes to him and for driving us all the way there. And my mom wasn't she was super stoked about the idea of him taking us, but she didn't want to go, being out in the sun and all that time. But my dad, he couldn't control himself. He walked around taking pictures of the colorful mohawks and was just total dad mode, like, Jared, look at that one. And I mean, I'm like, come on, Dad, you got to stop with this. But that was something. And I'll tell you something else pretty funny too. So I actually, this will be a running joke between my brother and I for the rest of our lives. I'll never hear the end of it. But I, at that time, was super big into One Bad Pig. And so I opted out of the Crucified show to be a part of One Bad Pig's live ice cream sundae bull crab show. So, nothing against those guys.
How did that work out?
Yeah, it did not work out. I
tease it every time I get a chance.
and to be quite honest with you, I even thought it had worked out for me that night, but it took maybe months to realize, what did I just do? I threw away seeing the Crucified live.
Guess where we were at?
I bet you I could guess. Hey, so from our kid perspective, our high school perspective.
How old were you guys?
So I was a freshman in high school. So I would have been turning 14 that summer. My brother, you probably just turned 16.
Just turned 16.
Yep.
Wow.
So we were youngsters, and when we saw you guys, y'all were, my gosh, youngsters as well. So when we saw y'all on stage, when we see you guys walking around, I remember, talking to you in the merch tent and just being like, oh my gosh, I totally talked to him. Like, y'all were spiritual giants to us. Like, from our perspective, you guys had figured out a way to, live this Jesus life in a super cool way. In a way where you're also playing badass music.
Well, I'm a tired old beggar, riding and torn, sleeping feet that shouldn't hurt. Frail by the wayside, little hope with dopes and bottles. They say it's twice a charm, put in another slap
telling people about the gospel and just so on and so forth. But pretty much behind the scenes, we knew y'all were the heroes as well from our little perspectives. Like, were we on to something? Did you guys have something figured out at a higher level than us? Or are we talking our jaws would drop if we knew what was going on behind the scenes? Or were you guys complete hypocrites living for the Lord? Like, what's going on with you guys when you're not on the stage at that point in time? Super young guys.
That was a pretty long-winded question.
Yeah, and I think it's been well documented. Nobody else in the band was a professing Christian.
Oh, gotcha. So it was just
Not even your brother?
Omar was, to an extent, yeah.
Okay.
But other than that, no one else in the band was a professing Christian. In '89, when my brother and I started the band up again, we knew we weren't going to be able to find Christians to be in the band. Because for a number of reasons. One, I'd much rather deal with a non-believer than the Christian baggage a Christian would bring to the table.
Yeah.
I don't have any tolerance for that. Two, the Christian musicians wouldn't have the reference experience to be able to play this kind of music because they're Christians. They're not going to have the fluid background reference of a Bad Brains or a James Addiction or the Specials or anything else, Bowie or Bauhaus, anything else that we were trying to incorporate into the sound. They're not going to know anything about that.
So even within the Christian music scene, there were people alienating themselves from other types of music, because that's what I was going to ask you too, going along those same lines. Is me as a listener, and then I think a lot of other listeners, like I said at the beginning of the episode, were brought up in a way where you couldn't really listen to secular stuff.
Right.
And so from our perspective, you guys, we weren't hearing the other stuff, and most of the listeners weren't either. Was that the same with y'all as the actual musicians? Because I would have just assumed that y'all probably looked at listeners and been like, y'all are dumb. Y'all are missing out on some really good bands. But did y'all also have the stay away from secular music sort of mantra?
Well, I wasn't raised a Christian.
Gotcha.
So I got saved, I think, a month before I turned 16.
Yeah.
So I had an actual musical career and history and background prior to that.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you've heard some of the other podcasts regarding my story, but I was in a band with Don Bowles at the age of 15. Don Bowles, drummer for the Germs, 45 Grave.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was already...
You're at 15 you were?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I was already well deep in the LA secular punk scene as a teenager.
Yeah.
Before I got saved. So I had a reference of musical background that I listened to and all that carried into it. Whereas most Christians didn't. In 1989, remember what was coming out in music in 1989. There was, which is why Sin Disease had such the impact that it had, because nobody in Christendom was doing anything remotely close to that. And there was a reason for that. They didn't have that reference.
They weren't plugged in. Yeah.
They weren't plugged in. They weren't listening to James Addiction. They weren't listening to the Bad Brains. They weren't doing any of that.
Yeah.
We were actually hanging out with the Bad Brains and playing with them. We were playing with HR in 88.
Well, see, that was my question. So in secular hardcore circles, were you guys respected, accepted at all?
Yeah, and a lot of that, the Bad Brains connection did a lot for that. I mean, we knew the Red Hot Chili Pepper guys, we knew the James Addiction guys because of my band prior to that. The band that I had between 86 and 89, it was a dark wave band, but we were very much involved with the entire club circuit. We were on K-Rock. We did the K-Rock local music shows. They were playing our music.
What was the band name?
Signier.
Okay.
It's basically the blueprint for Spyglass Blue.
Okay.
And
cool.
So we were already, that's what we were doing. I mean, we were in the LA Weekly. We were, there was a lot of movement in my secular career when we decided to do Scaterd Few again, which is why we were able to rewrite old songs, write new songs, find a drummer, utilize the same bass player, guitarist, and keyboardist from Signé, both my brothers and Paul Fig, and then find Sam, write, record, gig, and have Syntheses out in 10 months. That all happened like in 10 months. Bam.
Gosh.
Were they all local to the area?
What's
All
that?
your musicians? Were they all local to your area?
Yeah, so I had two of them were my brothers. Omar on bass, Drew on keyboards. Paul Fig was a guitarist in Signé.
Okay.
And so we didn't go with the Signé drummer. I forgot why. So we looked for a drummer that had a certain experience. Found Sam, and then we immediately started. This is after another drummer and guitarist which we tried out, which I thought was pretty amazing. That version of Scaterd Few was amazing. We demoed some stuff, and it was a little bit slower and a little bit more. I don't know. It was really rad. But then but they didn't want to do it, and so we found Sam, and then for 5 minutes we considered being a first wave like the Specials ska band, because we all ska's a huge, not third wave ska.
Sure,
that's not
what you're
ska.
talking about.
We're talking the real stuff, 77, 78, 79, the Specials. So for 5 minutes we considered doing that, but we thought no, we can't because everybody already knows this is a punk band. We need to. So no one was doing any of that. There weren't Christians doing that kind of music. If there were Christian musicians doing that kind of music, you would have had at least something remotely close to it. And there wasn't anything remotely close to it. So I had to go find non-believers in order to musically create what I had in mind. And I also didn't want to deal with the Christian drama. Christian drama is just, there's nothing fun about that.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Joey.
No, go ahead.
I just had a question. So, what changed with Scaterd Few between 1984 Out of the Attic sessions and then Syntheses?
I went from guitar to frontman, and the 3 to 4 years that I did in Signé really honed my songwriting.
Okay.
So
Out of the Attic preceded Insignia then?
Yeah, Out of the Attic was 83, 84.
Gotcha.
I did Signé 86 through the beginning of 89. And not only did I hone my songwriting and arranging abilities, but also the business side of it. Because I was, we were doing the whole secular thing, making a lot of headway. Like I said, we were on K-Rock and all that stuff. So taking all of that, I was able to bring a maturity that I had now developed at the age of 25 that I didn't have at 19. Obviously.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And was able to formulate syntheses as far as the mature songwriting, arrangement, production, and just the business direction, the whole package. It was a more realized package, obviously.
So we're gonna put clips of syntheses all over this episode, and for the listeners' sake, I mean, I'm telling you, at the very least, you enjoy listening to Jared and I have invested in our conversations. I'm just telling you, if the one thing that you learn from this podcast is I've got to go check out Syntheses by Scaterd Few, then we will have done you very, very well.
Mission accomplished. Yeah.
Mission accomplished for sure.
And it is on iTunes.
Yeah.
So I have it on vinyl. It's so sweet.
Oh yeah, did you guys get the vinyl?
I have the vinyl. Yeah.
Did you hear the remaster of that?
No.
It's remastered.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can tell that. I didn't realize it. Yeah. It sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, I can hear the difference.
I didn't realize it was remastered, but it makes sense now because the vinyl sounds so good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the music industry and how nowadays you've got two huge perks from or a huge perk from the web internet, and then you have a drawback of the internet. So the huge perk is that you can literally dump a song online and a good billion people can have access to it. That's just unheard of, unprecedented. The negative of that is just the flooded market of music you can listen to on the internet. So what I'd love to do is critically assess the time era in which Sin Disease came out, and maybe put it in 2018 as far as the operational side of music, as far as putting things out online and that sort of thing.
You taking notes?
But
Allan?
but then take where we were at stylistically in the 80s as far as what people had heard and had taken a liking to, what was in, and all of that. So, snapshot. 2018, Sin Disease comes out right now, but the music scene was how it was back in the 80s. We just have access to the internet. How well do you guys see Sin Disease taking off?
My wife and I have had this conversation before.
No way.
Oh, absolutely.
See, Jared, I ask great questions, man.
I guess you do.
And here's why. I've been an early adapter to a lot of stuff. In fact, did you guys know there was a podcast in 2005 called Crappy Christian? Yeah. See, I've been involved with podcasting since 2004.
Dang.
I'm telling you, I didn't even know it was around then. Y'all are always ahead of the game. We seriously tell Billy Power. Do you know who that is? Guy from Blenderhead. He's helped us out with editing and all that stuff. And I mean, all respect in the world to you guys, because I mean, we really do see y'all as the folks that kind of paved the way for knuckleheads to come behind you and walk on the trail that y'all blaze, because
that's what Sin Disease did.
Yeah, exactly. And part of me feels like, well, that sucks for you guys, because the path no one notices. Everybody just notices who is on the path. But just know that there's a lot of people like us that do see that and are appreciative.
Sin Disease came out 4 or 5 years before Tooth and Nail did.
Yep.
Yes.
So but the Tooth and Nail. Here's what's really cool about that, and this is just a little rabbit trail. The Tooth and Nail documentary, they tipped their hat at Scaterd Few and Sin Disease, which was absolutely amazingly wow. Yeah. Because we were never on the label, but that was really nice of them to do that. I mean, it really was. Because it's like, look, this happened, and because this happened, this was able to happen. Yeah. So my wife and I have had that conversation, because being an early adapter to tech, I mean, like I said, I had a podcast company in 2005. I've always been way ahead of stuff musically or whatever. But I mean, I understand the importance of social media. I've been involved with social media since the very beginning. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, imagine. Let me reverse the question. Imagine having this outlet. Imagine having the power of this in my hand. Yeah. In 1988, 89. Yeah. Right. I mean, it would have made my life a lot easier, and we probably would have been bigger, because any millennial that bitches about not having any opportunities today is an idiot, because they've got this in their hand. They're just not smart enough to understand what they have. The future, our future, is your reality. Does that make sense? Yeah. We thought about this stuff back then. So anyway, because of that, but because of social media, the discussion I've had with my wife is, there's no way Scaterd Few could have happened or would have happened today with social media. Because you have to remember all the crap we went through, and I still go through, because of how far ahead of the curve we were, as far as the music, the lyrics. I mean, we're talking about gang violence, factionalism, drug addiction. We're talking about stuff unheard of, because we come from the real world. We didn't come from this bubble.
Sucking on a glass glass, no freedom in basic. Sucking on a glass God, well, I can't understand. This white line worship, how it hinders every man to seek it out to infidel, or turn over bad heart.
And the rumor campaigns, all the various rumors that were happening, the Syndesignes being pulled from the store by Zondervan, imagine that at the level of that social media would have given it.
Yeah.
There's no way Scaterd Few would have been able to do that in that market today with that power of social media.
Gosh, because
you got to remember, and I say this all the time, I've made a good living on the internet. I've been involved with the internet economy as a developer, designer, coder, whatever, marketer since 97, 98.
Yeah.
And I've made a good living at it. So I love the fact that I love the internet. It's so amazing. But my pet peeve is any Muppet with a computer and an internet connection now has a voice that hasn't been vetted, that hasn't been proven, that hasn't been nothing.
Right.
They haven't earned it. They haven't earned the right to listen to it. Yeah.
Exactly. Their voice has not been earned. I've worked hard for 35 plus years to earn that voice, to have my voice vetted, my opinion vetted, and all that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's you against the majority that haven't. And for some, I don't subscribe to the everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah.
I just don't. Who said that? That's like getting trophies for trying. I don't buy that. I don't get that. Yeah. So that's my biggest pet peeve about the internet is anybody has a voice now, whether it's been tried, tested, or trued, or earned.
Yeah.
That probably would have hurt us really, 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 really bad. Because there's people out there that think I'm a cult. They think I've lost my mind. They think I'm insane. Yeah. Even today, Well, and there's nothing you can do about that because, remember the movie, God Wills It. Kingdom. Kingdom.
Yeah.
Right? The loudest Muppet, the guy with the loudest voice, God wills it, right? And they all went in that direction.
Yeah. It
had no rhyme, no reason, no brain, no intellect, no understanding. Just the guy that yelled, God wills it, and they all,
Yep.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing today.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the polarization politically. Not that I want to go there, but it's the same difference.
Yeah.
So I don't think because of that, Scaterd Few would have been as successful because there would have been a lot of people clamoring out of fear and ignorance. So, and then to answer the question, it's 91. We're at Cornerstone, heroes, blah, blah, blah. Are we hypocrites? What's going on off stage? Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were, the majority of the band weren't professing believers. In 91, if you remember, in 91, I did that interview with CCM where I admitted to smoking pot, but that I was trying to quit.
Yeah.
So in 92, I actually quit. And so that's how many years now? I stopped smoking pot
26,
in 90,
I guess.
I don't know.
26 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I mentioned that I was I smoked pot because that was part of the rumor thing, but I'm trying to quit. Yeah. And my pastor's involved. I do quit less than a year later. No one cared about that. They only cared about the fact that I smoked pot, which tells you a lot, the way people think. And by 96, and then by 92, 3, 4, the balance of what I'm saying and believing, because I mean, the whole Jesus Christ, Messiah lifestyle that is laid out in the Word regarding that confession is something I obviously have always believed, since I got saved. Is everything. Yeah. I'm a young dad. We have 3 kids, and what I'm doing and where we're at and what we're doing, rock and roll, and just climbing that ladder, doing all that, isn't conducive to a healthy Christian family lifestyle. I mean, you're gone a lot, just all the trappings. And so I had to start making choices to ensure. And I remember thinking, I want to be 50 years old, still married to my wife, raise my kids in the Lord, and have a relationship with them. And that's not going to happen if I keep doing this way. Yeah. Because it's not conducive to that. So I'm going to start making changes to my lifestyle to ensure that I have that future. So we started with a 3-week rule. I couldn't be on the road more than 3 weeks before I either had to go home or accommodate the family on the road, because that's just being gone 3 weeks, more than that, that's just not good for a marriage.
Yeah.
Or the
Especially
household.
with 3 kids too.
Right. Let alone the family dynamic. So, and I knew that the choices that I was making to ensure this it was going to hurt my career. So it meant the family meant my witness, my testimony means more to me than my musical career. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm gonna stand before God when I die and he's gonna ask me, okay, so how many top 10 singles did you have, radio singles, and how many record sales did you? No, he's gonna go, how's your marriage, how's your kids, because that's a man's first fruits. And if you screw that up, it doesn't matter how many records you sell, or how many top 10 singles you have, or none of that. That's insanity.
Yeah.
And I knew that, and I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be this guy. So I made choices and decisions that did affect my career. But I'm 54. It's 2018. I'm still married to the same girl. All our 3 kids serve the Lord. We're raising our grandkids in the Lord. Time tells all.
Mm-hmm.
Time tells all. Right? So at the very beginning of this conversation, you were saying, in 91, we thought you were a hero and a spiritual this and that and the other, and sadly to say, the majority of those people back then aren't there today.
Yeah.
Aren't doing that anymore, for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It really is the majority. It's crazy when you think about just that we're actually, you'd get a kick out of this, the bad Christian media, we did a little Kickstarter and we've got the money raised to put out a documentary called What Would Jesus Sell? And it just goes, it goes behind the scenes with the actual musicians and producers and the big concert venues. And it really does take a look at the money industry that was behind all of that, and just a lot of the basically using Christianity for the money part, but then not really having the fruits behind the scenes. It's crazy.
Right.
Even back in the Keith Green days, I remember Keith Green harping about that and just the sort of stuff that was out there. So, with you and Scaterd Few, and how did you carry that tension of being serious about your faith and serious about your testimony, badass band with other members that the Jesus part, that's cool for him, but we don't really care.
That wasn't necessary. That was never really an issue, because we all knew that dynamic going into it.
Yeah.
I think Sam West put it best. Scaterd Few, great sex, bad marriage.
Yeah.
But the issues of faith never clashed, because everybody knew who everybody was when we started this thing.
Yeah.
So really wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
It was more your basic everyday band BS, that band drama that causes bands to break up or whatever. You know?
Totally.
Right.
What were some of the reasons the stores were trying to take your stuff off the shelves? Was it just like how you looked somewhat
probably the
feminine in some of those, or
I think, I'm not sure what came first, the pool or the marijuana mentioned in this interview. The lyrics, people were saying, so there was a bunch of rumors going around that just weren't true, that we were cussing on the album, which we weren't. We were dropping, whatever words we were saying, they actually weren't on the lyrics, that weren't actually being said. Even though we smoked pot, the rumors were we were, acid and all sorts of crazy other stuff, crazy, weird sexual immorality stuff.
Yeah.
Just whatever you could possibly think of to discredit a Christian band was being said about us.
Right.
And not all of it was true. Right. And so I remember right after the record came out, Frontline was fielding all the phone calls that were coming in, that, phone calls of people concerned about the music, and all the phone calls concerning our faith, lifestyle, integrity, or whatever you want to call it, were going to my pastor. It was a mess. It was a mess. And it doesn't, I mean, I have the same problems today. It doesn't matter. If they want to believe something about you, they're going to believe that about you. I mean, we have examples of this all over Scripture. The rebellion of Korah, the Jeremiah scenario. I mean, it's this constant. David. I mean, this is just the way humans are. They if they want to believe X, Y, Z about you, it doesn't matter how much truth you can shine on it. If they've made up their mind, they've made up their mind.
Yeah, that's good.
At this time, did you guys pursue venues that were Christian, secular, or both?
We were doing both. So we were doing secular, we toured with HR, we were doing secular shows with HR, we were doing Christian shows, and without HR, we were doing Christian and secular shows, just as Scaterd Few. We were playing pagan ritual festivals, we were playing Christian festivals.
Gotcha.
And we were doing that because I think it might even be worse today. Christians needed the gospel just as much as the non-believer back then. I think they need it even more so today.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, Christians are people that Christianity is something they do. It's not something necessarily that they are. And so, it's not something that they're 100% sold out on, right? They're not living transformative lives with, like you said, fruit. And this isn't like their lifestyle. It's just a part of their deal.
Their culture. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's not like they're really sold out. It's not like they read the Bible and understand it, or how to read it properly. It's not like they wake up in the morning and pursue God's will for their life. It's just, it's kind of like you said, it's an accessory. I understand that, and I understand why they believe that, and I understand how we got to this point. I understand Christianity. I've been involved with it, since I was, like I said, 16. Good, bad, or indifferent. So playing to Christians and playing in Christian festivals or Christian shows or Christian tours, we knew we were bringing a message in a vehicle, Scaterd Few, that was going to challenge and or enlighten people. I mean, the amount of people that we were able to identify with and they were having a problem identifying with Christianity was huge. You know what I'm saying? We identified more with people than they did with Christianity, and that's a home run right there.
Yeah.
Because they knew. I mean, I've always been very vocal, hard on my sleeve about my faith. If you go back and read or listen to interviews from 90, 91, 93, 94, whatever, I'm saying the same thing today that I said back then.
Yeah.
I haven't really changed.
Lights out! Listen to the light flowing out of my lips. Oh, one must beseech the truth a little while. Color fascination is spreading across the nation. Fascism style. I understand the need for man to clan together. The word in your history, remember Cora. Like packs of dogs try to run forever. Please stop assassination.
It's so crazy what you're describing about the culture and how that just hasn't changed in 27 years. I mean, like seriously, when you think about just how the church has tried so hard to open a door that they don't want to come through. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just the stuff that we've you guys, I'm sure, talked about in the early 90s, same things that we're talking about here in 2018.
Crazy. I mean, here's a good example. So I put a book out in March. So I've got a book out. So I've been doing these live YouTube video interviews, right, with like other channels that are in the same kind of niche that my book's about. And there's comments in live comment threads, right? and people are freaking out about my earrings.
Yeah.
They're like losing their shit on my earrings.
Oh my gosh.
Because how could this guy be talking about the law, the Torah, and keeping the commandments and have earrings? Doesn't he know what the Bible says about earrings? It doesn't say anything negative about it. You know? But they're so legalistic. But I'm like, it's 2018 and you're freaking out about my earrings. It's like, how insane is that? So the only thing I can think of is that these people come from like a really, whatever, religious or whatever type of background. And because they did an interview with me, this particular channel that's been selling a lot of books for me, to be honest. And I'm really enjoying the new relationship I have with these people. They're old fans. So they did a big interview with me recently about the history and how did I get from that to this book. And the people were just like, oh, whoa, he was an old punk rocker. Well, shouldn't he have taken those earrings out then by now? And it's just you're tripping on the earrings. It's like, how is that possible?
Now, a lot of things that you've said in passing, as far as Scaterd Few kind of being in a category of its own, when you talk about the Crucified, a lot of people know Mark Solomon from being on here, and the Crucified, Stavesacre, and all that. Where do they fall when it comes to the unique vibe being put out in the Christian music industry?
Every member of Scaterd Few and every member of Crucified will tell you the same thing. One of the greatest memories both bands have are playing together.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Everywhere and anywhere. The Crucified Scaterd Few shows were, for everyone that was able to have seen those shows, will tell you, they were, oh my gosh. And so whenever we did that, we always played before them, on purpose, because they were more thrash. We had a funky reggae, punk rock, dark, edgy post thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was still punk rock, but you know what I'm saying? But they were like thrash. So it made sense for them to go after us.
Right.
And man, those shows were, they were just amazing.
Yeah.
Think about the intensity of a Scaterd Few show. And then with the Crucified, with that, I mean, that double energy thing. I mean, it was just, it was amazing. Did you guys ever catch one of those?
Just at Cornerstone, I saw you guys in Crucified, but I never actually saw you playing together, like outside that venue.
Yeah. One of the, I mean, we all have favorite shows, but one of the ones that we all always kind of talk about, there's one of the first Scaterd Few shows we did in '89 when we first started coming out, again. And the Crucified were there. Mark talked about it in his book, actually. Remember that book he put out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Simplicity.
Yeah. He mentions this book, this show. We had a black guitarist at the time. He actually played a little bit on Sin Disease and then left the band before Sin Disease was finished because his girlfriend said the band was going nowhere. And he listened to her.
Yeah, apparently.
So we had a black guitarist. We called him Ed Lover. I guess there was a guy on MTV Raps called Ed Lover, so that's what we nicknamed him.
Okay, nice.
I don't know anything about MTV Raps. But we had a black guitarist. I have dreads. I'm wearing a T-shirt and a sweatshirt. And I took the sweatshirt off, and it's the continent of Africa in Rasta colors.
Yeah.
And it said something like Black Power on it. And this is in Orange County. It's a Christian show, but there's about a dozen Nazi skinheads in the crowd.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
And they lost.
It's like a Bad Geraldo episode.
They lost their minds.
Oh,
and
man.
To the extent that they were waiting for me after the show.
Golly.
And so all we could do, I just walked right up to the leader and I went, "Where are you from?" "My family's Italian." I go, "You're not even white, you freaking, whatever." Bunch of posers, But what happened was they started, of course, as soon as I took off that T-shirt, they lost their minds and they started like heckling and all that. And all the Christians guys, like those Christian jock guys, they lost their minds. They wanted to destroy these guys right then and there. It was we almost had a riot on our hands with these Christian guys against these like.
Did you have to call them off, the Christian guys?
We had to call them off.
Yeah.
But Mark's there. I mean, so Crucified were there. So that was one of the first shows we did was Crucified, and we had this. But it's something we always talk about and remember because it was like, wow, what a night, right? And the other show that we talk about a lot is the Club Post Nuclear show in Laguna Canyon, February of '92. I have video.
What happened there? Just the
The
intensity
place-
of the show?
The place was beyond capacity.
Wow.
We were turning people down at the door. So it was like, it was way, I don't know how much more max out we were over legal capacity. It was like the first show of the year. And it was us and Crucified. And I mean, the amount of humanity in there, and it was like Club Post Nuclear. So it had this new post-apocalyptic, metal stuff on the ceiling and all.
Yeah.
The condensation there from the mass of humanity. It was like raining in there.
Oh my God.
And
That's
it
gnarly.
was just like, and it's local. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's in Orange County. And it was just, it's the stuff rock and roll dreams were made of. It was just amazing. And I've got the footage of our set. And, they'll remember that show, the Club Post Nuclear show.
Yeah.
You should post that,
He
man.
also mentioned
Good to
that.
see that.
So we had their back, they had our back.
Yeah.
And we went for it. And we went out there and we were balls to the wall, bold, this is what we're about. And it's like, because a lot of people don't understand that just because this was a secular club for one, but not all Christian shows consisted of Christians as these Nazi punks, skinheads, so you're not, again, even if they are Christians, I know they need to hear this gospel just as much as that skinhead guy, because I guarantee you those Christians they're not like running for God's will.
Right.
They're like afraid of God, and they're like screwing around with sex and drugs.
Yeah.
So to us, it was like, to me, it was an even playing field, because even if they called themselves Christians, chances are they weren't.
Yeah.
What I would define as a Christian, I know that might sound weird to some of your listeners, but do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
There's a biblical standard.
Yeah.
There's a standard,
Yep. For sure. Well,
So it was intense.
yeah.
Oh, and you knew it was a good show when the ambulance would show up. that happened a lot, man.
Wow.
Well,
With those Scaterd Few Crucified shows.
I think Jared and I probably owe you a few thank yous for the number of times in high school we were able to tell people to check out Scaterd Few, and then we like dropped in there that, oh yeah, by the way, these guys are Christians, no big deal though, man, So they'd listen to it and they'd be like, good gosh, man, this stuff. I mean, it really was the one that is just 100% feedback is, holy shit, this dude, this stuff's awesome, man.
I would say the hippest guy that I knew in high school, he would always tell me about like Soundgarden, Nirvana before they were big, and Ministry, Nine Inch Nails. He was also in the Bad Brains and Minor Threat, so I let him borrow the cassette to send Aziz. He was blown away. He could not believe it.
And you never got it back?
Bailey's fucking making Joe. Joey put my soul with the throne. Saying hide your minds on high. I'm the one you can't despise. Two fashions on my back. I think I'm half with purpose attack. Global genocide to leave. Get sure to take your life.
Yes, thank you. No, thank you, because that's the highest compliment. Back then, you had to apologize for the band being Christian,
Yeah.
right? Because of the substandard art that it was. And Scaterd Few was known for, oh, check this out. You never had to once make an apology that they were Christian, because artistically, musically, it was
care.
above par,
Right.
right?
Right.
And again, we told Frontline, we're not making a Christian record. We're making a real record. Because obviously I wasn't trapped in that mentality to begin with.
Yeah.
My theology and doctrine was already not the norm. I believed in, and still do, speaking in tongues and laying hands and casting out demons and raising the dead. That's not very popular in those circles.
Right.
It still isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, when Christian worship bands aren't doing that kind of stuff, and Korn is, something's gone really wrong. When Korn's the band praying for people before and after shows,
Yeah.
because Christian bands aren't.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. It's a different world. It's a different lifestyle. It's a whole different thing. So we knew that what we were presenting was, this is a real album. We're talking about real stuff. It's not fluff. And we know it's going to speak to these people. I can't tell you the amount of people in all these, especially back then, thanking us. I was going to OD and I didn't because of your album. I was going to do this, just practical, real life impact, where most bands were just, it's just whatever.
Yeah.
It spoke to people. It really spoke to people, we were presenting Jesus in a light they hadn't heard before.
Yeah. I
might be screwed up and I might be on the outs and I might be way over there, but they're telling me God still loves me, because he does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would imagine for someone that was into the punk scene and like into the real deal scene, playing that album, and kind of investigating your faith and spirituality would kind of almost be like what people say when they show up to a contemporary church service. They're like, I didn't know you could have a church service like this
with drums.
Exactly. It's like, I didn't know you could have really good music like this. So
you're using a delay pedal.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. It's definitely a conversation that my brother and I probably never envisioned us having. So it's been a treat for us.
Can I ask my fanboy question?
Oh yeah. Yes, please do.
Yeah. So I was a huge fan, obviously, of Sin Disease, Job of an Ass. I was also a huge fan of Mortal's Fathom.
Yeah.
Did you have any kind of role in that, in the making of that? I remember they gave you a special thanks.
I pre-produced Lucis.
Okay.
I got him signed to Frontline, connected them with Terry Taylor. Fathom, we were in the same way we were like this, tight with Crucified. We were really tight with the Mortal guys, obviously. And then, of course, Full Zandura, which was my favorite band in the world. Golly, I think in '97, I saw Full Zandura like 28 times or something.
Good
I mean,
Lord.
touring and all that. I mean, it was a good band.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I sang on the. I know I hung out probably in the studio, but I didn't do any work on that album.
Okay.
But
so moral support.
Yeah, and then but then on the Alive series, I sang on Lift.
Okay. Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I would say that almost as groundbreaking as Scaterd Few was to Christian music, I think Lucis was right up there. That was a very unique sound for the Christian market, at least. It was,
and Mortal is actually my wife's favorite band. I liked Full Zandura more, I think.
Okay.
Not that I didn't like Mortal, obviously. It was, you got to remember, it was a really, 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 really special time. There was only like 4 of us. It was us, Crucified, Mortal, and I don't know. It was just us, and we were the only ones doing what we were doing.
I was just saying, so you're saying there was only 3, so we just went down from 4 to 3. Hell yeah.
Well, I'm counting. I'm thinking of the bands.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, this is pre-Circle of Dust. This is pre-Clank. This is pre-Tooth and Nail.
Yep.
And out of Southern California, well, even though Crucified came from Fresno, Mortal and us came from Southern Cal, and we worked with Crucified, but there wasn't. I mean, it was like the 3 of us. It was these 3 bands out there, freaking working it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Blazing that trail. Yeah.
What's the term today for working it?
You're asking the wrong dude.
There's a millennial term. The grinding it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
The grind. Yeah. Something like that.
When we were working our asses off, and we knew. I mean, history. Go back and look. History shows that we were creating a road for all these other bands to come after us.
Yeah.
So it was only us. So there was this massive camaraderie, and because didn't I sing on Mindbender? And then we would sing on live stuff, But didn't I do something on the Crucified Pillars of Humanity album?
Yeah, I think you did.
I think I recall doing something. So
Sounds,
there was like,
sounds right.
again, it was a family. It was only us in the world. So I mean, we were very protective of each other, and it was just it was a very 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 special time.
And you were on
I got to say, in high school, you were my three favorite bands. Mortal, Crucified.
You know why? Because there was only three of us. Apparently, allegedly.
Yeah.
And did you sing on one of Petra's latest second to the last? What's so funny, Jared? What's so funny?
No, but see, here's the thing. No one knows this, but in '91, Cornerstone '91, we have a Petra story, and it's not a positive good one, man.
Oh, dude. Now I got to hear it.
Well,
You're not going to drop that one on this one for us, are you?
It's how many years later, and still no one knows about it.
all right.
Well, here's our big Cornerstone story before we let you go. And I guess there's an outside shot that you would know who this person is. So we obviously can't say his name. So there's a guy that we befriended in Charleston. He's probably a good 7 or 8 years older than us. And he finds out that we went to Cornerstone the year prior. And so my brother wanted to use all of his birthday money and buy a bunch of Cornerstone loot for '92, the Cornerstone we were not going to. So this guy, basically he's an adult in our life, takes my brother's money to Cornerstone '92 to bring him back a Scaterd Few T-shirt.
I was naive.
The new this, the
Painfully
new
so.
that, and I'll tell you what, if that dude never brought his money back. It was first it was oh man, I forgot to take your money. Then it was, oh, I forgot to bring it, and it just never stopped. I was like, I cannot believe, and that was like a Christian role model.
He was a fellow brother in Christ, yeah.
No, you thought he was a fellow brother in Christ, because a fellow brother in Christ wouldn't have done that to you.
Yeah.
See, just because you tell me you're a Christian, I don't necessarily believe that.
There
You
you
see
go.
that fruit, right?
Because if you are, I'll see it.
And as the story goes, they never gave me something for the pain. They left me by myself to ease the shame. To cope with rationality, the outcome's quite the same. And like the wise men long ago, they try to keep me in the dark, to blind my eyes that I may miss the mark. The thought of death eternal give these madmen peace of heart. As the story grows,